Twenty-third, 2023, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now it is 12:18 p.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, and we currently have a B-52 nuclear bomber flying over the panhandle of Oklahoma, and it just took off from Norman, Oklahoma. And we also have a presidential doomsday plane on its way to Europe, and it got aerially refueled off the coast of Cape Cod by two KC-135 Stratotanker aerial refuelers. So a lot of doomsday planes going to Europe, a lot of VIPs going to Europe. I'm not sure why there would be a doomsday plane going to Europe now, because they just had the defense ministers meeting last week or this past week. So I don't know why there would be any VIPs going to Europe now, but nevertheless, a presidential doomsday plane heading towards Europe. Okay, maybe Biden is going to make a surprise visit. Maybe Lloyd Austin is going back there. I have no idea. This is very unusual. And then having that B-52 in the air today as well is pretty unusual. And we had another nuclear war command and control plane up in the air this morning, and it went out to the Atlantic off the coast of South Carolina, where it disappeared from flight tracker, and it turned off its transponder somewhere off the coast of South Carolina. And then there was that one nuclear war command and control plane off the coast of Cape Coral, and that thing was up in the air for probably like 10 hours or more, and then it shut its transponder off. So I don't know what ended up happening with it, but lots of nuclear war command and control planes, another nuclear bomber, another doomsday plane. And if that's not enough, I want to show you guys something. The CDC just posted on their Instagram about what to do in a radiation emergency. 3 days ago, they posted this. Okay, so if you go onto Instagram, just type in CDC in the search bar, and they just posted this literally 3 days ago. Okay, so let me just show you what it says here. It says, in a radiation emergency, get inside, stay inside, and stay tuned. Okay, so they're supposed to be doing this nationwide emergency alert system test on October the 4th at 2:20 p.m. Eastern Time, and that's drill for nuclear war. Okay, there's no other reason that the U.S. government would send out a nationwide emergency alert unless it was for a nuclear war. Okay, that's how we would be alerted if missiles were coming our way. All right, so very strange that they would suddenly post this 3 days ago. Okay, so I want to just talk to you guys about what's going on in Ukraine and in Europe. We have some major breaking news coming in this morning. Apparently, Ukraine has broken through Russia's final defense line in the Zaporizhia area, which is the southern part of Ukraine. And this was known as the Surovikin Line. This was that famous defense line that Russia built to stop the Ukrainians. And in one area, they were able to break through. And this was confirmed by General Tarnovsky. And he's the guy who's leading Ukraine's counteroffensive along the southern front line. And he reported that his forces broke through near Verbove. Okay, and he's predicting an even bigger breakthrough to come, okay?
To the outcome because I'm here in the West. But I can still try to look at things objectively, and that is what's happening. Joe Biden admitted today, when asked by a member of the press, I don't think it was a press conference, he was having some kind of negotiation or discussion with the Republicans, Democrats about what the status of the Ukraine war is going to be if there was a government shutdown. And he basically said, when the reporter asked him that, how can you justify making Ukraine funding exempt from a government shutdown? Because that's what they're going to do. When the government, if and when the government shuts down once again, they're going to pass some sort of bill that allows them to continue to fund Ukraine even if the government shuts down. And she asked him, how can you justify this? And he said, there is no alternative. There is no alternative. We must persist. In fact, I have the exact video clip here. You can go and watch it if you want, but he said there's no alternative. A lot of people take that to mean, oh, Biden's a dictator, he's an authoritarian. No, what he means is that this is a bipartisan issue. It doesn't matter if Trump gets in there. It doesn't matter if Pierre Poilievre takes over here in Canada. This is bipartisan. The prospect for a diplomatic, non-military negotiated peace deal is completely off the table, and they're going to make sure that no matter who gets into power, it is going to be completely off the table, because everybody realizes that if they cannot contain the Russians, again, this is not what I want. This is just how it is. And maybe if we got into their state of thinking, we would understand more. But he's basically saying, when he said there is no alternative, that they have no choice. If they want to keep the economy going and they don't want to have complete economic collapse, they have to keep the war going. Now, I know that sounds crazy. Understanding that the United States has already accrued, 1.3 trillion in debt. Is it this year or this quarter? I can't even remember anymore. I mean, and you think about how much they've given to Ukraine out of that, it's still a small fraction of what they've, the debt that they've accrued. So the only way they can continue to accrue debt is if the financial system remains robust and they are viewed as a viable option for using for dollar-denominated assets. And that's the only way that they can continue this whole game, is if they can keep the financial system together. And the only way they do that is by not letting Russia absorb those four annexed territories, exploiting its industrial potential, growing in population size, and getting together with the BRICS nations in order to possibly create some alternative currency down the road. Anyways, this is getting bad. We got depleted uranium, we got tanks, we got long-range missiles, we got drones, we got reconnaissance, we got Patriot systems, HIMARS, we got cluster munitions. It's all coming there. You're probably going to get F-35s and tactical nuclear weapons in Ukraine and boots on the ground. It's all coming because what has happened today is completely unprecedented. They possibly have murked the admiral of the Black Sea Fleet. And the Russians are being very, very quiet about this, which is kind of scary. If you go on any major Russian mainstream platform, be it RT, RIA Novosti, Sputnik, they're all being very tight-lipped about what has happened in Sevastopol today. What happened there is the headquarters of the Black Sea Fleet got completely freaking murked by a Storm Shadow missile, no less. Now, this is why this is so important. You potentially have the death of the top admiral in the Russian Navy in the Black Sea. You have knowingly that this was a Storm Shadow British missile. We also have, at the time that this happened, we have a United States recon plane that was in and around the Romania region, possibly doing some sort of reconnaissance for the Ukrainians to target the headquarters. You have a massive cyber attack that happened right before or while this was happening. And all of this is to slowly, gradually try to attrit the Russians and cut their supply lines. That's what this is all about right now. So anybody saying that Ukraine is out of this fight and the United States is going to abandon Zelensky, just don't listen to him. It's not, this is my preference. This is just what I see. They're just being piecemeal with respect to their administration of various weapon systems, so not to elicit an immediate nuclear response from the Russians. Don't believe when they say, oh, we're just going to give them a couple attackers. I think the verbiage that they're using now in the media is, yeah, we're going to send a handful, a small handful, or a small amount of attackers. Doesn't matter. The seal's broken. They're going to keep sending them. They're going to send them in the hundreds, possibly in the thousands at some point, okay? So it's much harder to get from one ATACMS to 1,000 than it is to get from 0 to 1, because you have to get the population to accept that fact first. They're going to send the Taurus long-range weapons from Germany after this. It's just a step-by-step gradual escalation. There are so many data points to consider here, guys. I can't possibly go over it all, but what we know is that they're redeploying 10,000 more troops to the Robatno and Zaporozhye area. And where that is right here. They claim to have definitively breached the